Things just got even worse for Justin Tucker. And you have no idea how deep this mess really goes. Imagine being called the best kicker in NFL history, the guy who never let Ravens fans down, and then suddenly becoming the center of a scandal so big there's no turning back. What was already bad has only gotten heavier. More accusations piling up, lawyers turning up the heat, and an NFL investigation digging up things no one wanted to see. And the worst part? It's not just his future on the line. It's also what's left for the Ravens, scrambling against the clock to fill the huge hole left by one of the franchise's greatest players. Meanwhile, the victims are demanding justice. Fans are divided, and the rest of the league is watching closely, wondering where this will end. But there's still a lot that hasn't come to light, and that's when things get really intense. So stick with me until the end, because what's coming next will show you just how much worse the Justin Tucker situation really is. The revelations are shocking and could change everything you thought you knew about this story. This goes way beyond what's been reported so far, and what's happened behind the scenes will surprise you. Go Ravens! Imagine the frustration. The lawyer representing the women, accusing former Ravens kicker Justin Tucker, went on camera and didn't hold back. He said he's outraged by how Tucker is handling everything. Even after the NFL slapped him with a tough 10-week suspension, Tucker says he just wants to put this behind him, but refuses to admit any wrongdoing. For the victims, that feels like a slap in the face, because while he's trying to clear his name, they're left carrying the weight of being seen as liars. Attorney Michael Belsky made it clear just how much this hurts the women involved. By continuing to deny the accusations, Tucker basically throws the victims back into the spotlight of embarrassment, doubt, and public judgment. What makes it worse is that this happened even after a massive NFL investigation that listened to every story, examined evidence, and spoke with witnesses. So it's not just he said, she said. There's a lot backing up their claims. On top of that, Belsky pointed out how dangerous Tucker's stance is. It sends a message that even after all the serious work the league put into investigating, Tucker feels comfortable turning his back on the victims and moving on like nothing happened. According to Belsky, that only drags out the pain for those brave enough to come forward, facing shame and fear of not being believed. What's really striking is just how thorough the NFL's investigation was. They didn't just scratch the surface, but dug deep to find the truth. That leads us into the next point. Because this whole investigation wasn't small, it explains why the league took such a strong stance against Tucker. Let's dive into that now. The NFL didn't mess around on this one. The victim's lawyer said league officials spent days at his Baltimore office, listening to each woman tell her story. And the craziest part? Every story lined up. Different women, different accounts, but all with the same pattern, the same way of describing Tucker's behavior. It was clear this wasn't made up or coincidence. There was something much bigger going on. Plus, it wasn't just talk. The NFL examined documents, message logs, and evidence showing these women reported what happened shortly after the incidents. That's huge because it proves they didn't keep quiet for years only to make things up now. They spoke up back then, and it was all documented. This kind of proof convinced the league that the allegations were serious and deserved the strictest treatment. The lawyer also praised the NFL's respect for the process. He said investigators weren't just checking a box. They listened patiently, reviewed every detail, and sought to understand the full context of each case. That gave the victims courage and ensured a fair judgment. So much so that some fans actually think the 10-week suspension was too light, given the severity of the claims. But even with all this investigation, the story doesn't end here. The fallout for Justin Tucker's career, and life goes far beyond just this initial suspension. And that's exactly what we need to dig into next, because this hole runs deeper than it seems. The 10-week suspension is already a huge blow to Justin Tucker's image. He went from being the most accurate kicker in NFL history to a player sidelined by a massive scandal. But truth is, this might just be the beginning of his nightmare. The victim's attorney hinted that they're still pursuing other forms of justice, including civil lawsuits, where Tucker could face serious financial and reputational damage. Unlike an NFL punishment with a set time frame, a civil case can drag on for years and open even deeper wounds. Plus, it brings ongoing public attention. If this case keeps going through courts, it will keep making headlines, with each new testimony adding more embarrassing details, and Tucker's already fragile reputation could become nearly impossible to fix. This is a kind of stain that sticks around. There's also the emotional toll on the victims. The attorney was clear that these women are hurt not only professionally. Many worked in massage therapy and had their reputations questioned, but also mentally and emotionally. Seeing Tucker carry on like nothing happened, insisting he's innocent, is extremely painful for them. What they want now is for him to really face the consequences for everything they went through. Meanwhile, the Baltimore Ravens are trying to move forward and fill the huge gap left by losing their historic kicker. That's another challenge we need to unpack, because it hits right at the heart of the team and the fans.
All right, we're already past the halfway point of this video, but before we continue, I noticed you haven't left a like yet. It's really important because it helps YouTube keep showing you my content so I can keep bringing you the best news about the Baltimore Ravens. So go ahead and hit that like button. It's free and it really helps. Thanks. Now let's get back to it.
The Ravens moved fast on paper. Early May, as the investigation heated up, they didn't hesitate to cut Justin Tucker loose. But in reality, that created a huge problem. Ravens fans got used to having a kicker who was basically automatic, someone who stepped on the field and turned any kick into guaranteed points. So now what? The team has to bet on two rookies, Tyler Loop and John Hoyland, who are battling out to claim that spot. Of course, nobody expects these rookies to come in and kick like Tucker did. He wasn't just the most accurate kicker in NFL history. He was a game changer, a guy who won games, saved seasons, and became a hero in tight moments. Now, with two young guys trying to prove themselves, every kick will be a nerve-wracking test for them and their fans, who are already biting their nails just thinking about a crucial field goal without Tucker. Plus, this shakes up the entire team strategy. When you have a kicker you can trust, you can afford to take fewer risks on fourth downs, manage the clock better, and count on a modest offensive drive to still get 3 points on the board. Without him, the Ravens' offense has to be more aggressive and efficient. That could completely change the team's dynamic in 2025, a season that was already going to be tough with the strength of their division. And the worst part? This whole shift is happening amid a much bigger debate, not just about football, but about the environment inside the NFL itself. And that's exactly what blows up in the final point of this story, showing how cases like this spark conversations way beyond the field. This scandal with Justin Tucker isn't just about him or the Ravens. It opens a much bigger wound inside the NFL because it exposes how dangerous the environment can be for those working behind the scenes. The massage therapists accusing the former kicker weren't there to fangirl or chase fame. They were doing a serious job, taking care of players' physical health, helping with muscle recovery and injury prevention. But suddenly, they were put in a situation completely out of line, one that should never happen anywhere. The victim's attorney made a point of emphasizing how important and deserving of respect this work is. And here comes the heaviest part. How many other women have been through similar experiences but stayed silent, afraid they wouldn't be believed or that they'd lose their place in the sports world? The Tucker case isn't just about what he did. It's about the culture of silence and impunity that still exists in sports. This puts the NFL in a tough spot, pressure to make sure behavior like this doesn't happen again. On the other hand, the league itself was praised by the victim's attorney for how it handled the case. He said the NFL conducted a thorough investigation, heard dozens of testimonies, and examined solid evidence. That's important because it shows that, at least in this case, there was no negligence. Still, a lot of people look at the 10-week suspension and question whether it truly fits the severity of the accusations. The weight of a case like this goes way beyond any official statement or temporary punishment. This episode makes it clear that the NFL still needs to do a better job protecting everyone in the football environment, both on and off the field. It also exposes how much the reputation of star players can influence decisions and silence criticism, even in extremely serious situations. The Tucker case will keep echoing, whether in team hallways or fan conversations, because it left scars that don't just disappear when a suspension ends. The Justin Tucker case shows how quickly a scandal can change everything, not just his career, but the NFL's image as a whole. The thorough investigation and suspension show the league is starting to take these allegations seriously, but there's still a long way to go. Meanwhile, the Ravens have to adapt fast to stay competitive without one of the biggest names in their history. This situation makes it clear that football is way more than what happens on the field. What happens off it matters just as much. What do you think about the NFL's handling of this case? And how do you see Justin Tucker's future after all this? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments.
And if you, just like me, are passionate about the world of football and want to learn more about the Ravens' legacy, don't leave this video without sharing it with that friend who is also a Baltimore Ravens fan and will love this content. See those video suggestions on your screen? The first one was handpicked just for you, and the other is a recommendation from YouTube itself. See you there, and until the next video, go Flock.